This is going to be an installation video for a throttle body spacer for my 2007 Lexus GX470. Some things it has to offer in the back: it says it gains 12 horsepower and 14 pound-feet of torque. I'm actually kind of curious to see if this will work. I've heard a lot of nice reviews, so I'll give it a try. I'll show what's inside the box, and then we'll start with the installation process. The kit comes with a throttle body spacer, a gasket for the spacer, and some hardware to install it. You also get some instructions, which I've read over. It's a pretty simple job. So I won't use the instructions. I will actually show how everything is done, and hopefully this will help someone out if they want to install the spacer on their car. Taking apart what is necessary for the car, we're going to start with the left-hand side plastic trim. So just take a flathead and start prying off these clips. Also, if you have a Harbor Freight pry tool, that's probably going to work out better than an actual flathead. Just something like this. Once those clips are taken off, we can take apart this panel. It comes off easily and put it to the side. We are then going to start working on the air box, which has a couple parts that need to be taken off before we can take this whole part off to get to the throttle body. The best place to start on the intake would be to first take these 3 clips off all the sides, take them off, and then start working on the MAF sensor. Disconnect this and get the clips taken off this top portion. From there, we are going to unscrew this fitting to release this top portion, and then from there, we will take the filter out, and then there's going to be a couple bolts that hold this whole part in the car. We'll take that out, and then we'll start working on the tubing that goes to the throttle body. I'll start doing that now, and I'll show you how it's done. Once this top portion is taken off, we can then take the filter that lays underneath it. I went ahead and upgraded my filter to a K&N filter, so you can take that out as well, put it to the side. And then I will show you what it looks like on the inside. We have 3 bolts here. I believe they are 10mm bolts. I will double check and I'll get back to you, but you have to take those 3 bolts out, and then we can take this portion out. We should be fine if you just leave this in and just unhook these hoses. We can also work from there. But if you want, you can also clean this out since you already have it out. But I'll leave this in for the time being, and I'll start working on the second part of this hose that connects to the throttle body. So just give me 1 second, I'll be right back. For this next part, we're gonna have 3 air hoses that we need to disconnect. We have one right here, one right there, and then we have one in the back. As you're taking those apart, you'll be able to move this tube to the side, but also if you're having a little bit of problem taking them off, you can also just move it to the side after unscrewing this. I'll show you how it's done with all of it removed, but if I can't get it done, I'll just move it to the side and that should be enough room to take the throttle body out. After loosening that, you will see that this will start to come off. So I'm going to loosen this hose and loosen this one in the back, and I will leave that one and just move the hose to the side, which will give me access. So I managed to get this one vacuum hose off from the front, but the other two are giving me a little bit of problem. So I went ahead and moved it to the left a little bit, and that gives me enough room to start working on the throttle body. As you can see, the throttle body is very clean. In the summer, I went ahead and did a throttle body cleaning. So I will show you what I used. I used this throttle body air intake cleaner, which also came with the mass airflow sensor cleaner. So you can just buy that kit at Walmart for pretty cheap. And just go ahead, since you're already going to be taking the throttle body out to install the spacer, you may as well just clean it up a bit. I will check mine out on the other side to see if it needs some cleaning, but for right now, it looks like it's in really good shape. So I will start taking off the throttle body, and I'll be right back. To get this GX470 throttle body taken off, we're going to have to take off the electric throttle body controller on this right-hand side. So that just comes off with a simple clip. After that's taken off, you're going to have 4 10mm bolts all around, and then you're going to have a coolant hose that's coming in from the throttle body and out. So my recommendation is, once taking this hose out, to get some needle nose pliers. Once you get it out, you're going to have a little bit of spillage, but make sure to squeeze the needle nose pliers into the hole, and that will allow none of the coolant to flow out. After that's taken off, these two hoses and these 10mm bolts, we'll be able to finally install a throttle body spacer on. So I will set my camera back up, and then I will get those steps taken care of. Once those are loose, you can start to work on the hoses. I'll get some pliers and I'll start prying that off. Once we have those two hoses and the clip and those 4 8mm bolts taken off, you can just take off the throttle body. Mine is actually still pretty clean from the last time I cleaned it over the summer, so I do not have to do the throttle body treatment. But if yours is really dirty, I would recommend doing it, because you will actually see that the idle upon start is much smoother. So I would just think about it before taking it off again. There's no point of putting it on dirty, because you're just going to ruin the performance of your ride. So I'd clean it up, and then we're going to start putting on the gasket, and then we're going to put the throttle body spacer, and then we will start installing everything back together. So something I didn't catch from the previous owner, I guess one of the bolts when the throttle body was taken off previously got broken off. This could have happened to the dealer. So I went ahead and tightened 2 screws together, and I took a 10mm wrench and I tightened them. And after some WD-40 and a little bit of pressure, the bolt should come out. Thankfully, it will come out, because the extension for the throttle body, they take longer screws than the OEM ones. So this would have not worked. I would have had 3 of the 4 bolts in the actual throttle body. So I'm glad this worked, and if you have any problems, just do what I did. Take 2 bolts, tighten the first one onto the second one, and then use a 10mm wrench like this, and just loosen it with some pressure. Just don't put too much pressure or else the bolt will break again, but just use enough to actually get it to be taken off. So I will do this, and then I'll be right back, putting on the throttle body and the gasket. Once you have taken the bolt out, this is how the assembly is going to look. We're going to have the throttle body, the gasket, and the spacer put on top with the silver bullet engraving seated on top towards you. This will allow the air to flow in and circulate and go straight into the intake, which it says it's supposed to increase horsepower, so we'll see how it goes. But I went ahead and cleaned my throttle body a little bit more. These are just some gashes that I could not get out of the throttle body, but everything looks good and it's clean. So I will start to put this on, and I'll put the bolts in, and I'll be right back. To tighten these bolts back on, we're going to use a 10mm bolt. Make sure to go in a corner pattern, so starting from the right, top right, going to the bottom left, then going to the bottom right, to the top left. So it says in the specifications to tighten the bolts, it says to 89 pound-feet of torque per inch per pound. So I will make sure to do that. I'm just hand tightening it down right now just to get the general feel for how the throttle body is going to be seated. Once I put everything back in and the bolts are tight enough, I will take out my torque wrench and I will tighten it down to the preferred specifications. with those 4 bolts torqued down to 89 inches per pound, I'm going to go ahead and put the clips back together, and I'm going to install the coolant back into the throttle body. That is just going to take those 2 hoses, the left one and the one in the front, and just this pin for the throttle body actuator. I'm going to plug that in. I'll be right back, and then we can start putting everything back together. I'm going to tighten everything now. I went ahead and got this portion on. Make sure this little nipple lines up with this line in the back. So I'm going to take my ratchet. You just use a 10mm, or you can use a Phillips screwdriver or drill, and just tighten it back up. That's on there nicely. And I'm going to go to the side and make sure to put this vacuum hose back on. And now, with all of the hoses put on, we can put the air filter back into the air box, and that should be everything. It was pretty simple to install a throttle body spacer. I would make sure to look online before buying one to see if it's compatible with your car, but I went ahead and looked for the GX. This one was compatible. It's also compatible for a couple of the other cars like the Tundra and the Tacoma. So just make sure to visit AFE Power on their website, and they should have a list of all their products with compatibility listings and all that sorts of stuff. So I'm going to finish putting this air box on and put the MAF sensor connection on, put all these 4 clips back on, and then tighten this portion, and that should be everything. After I put this portion on, I'll be back, and then we'll put the left side trim panel on, and we'll have a startup of the car. It's tight, all the clips are put on. I'm going to put the MAF sensor clip back on, like so. Now to put the left side on, you just have to double check, make sure everything's tight, everything's good, plug everything back in. Okay, now we can put this piece back on, and then use the clips that we had to tighten the trims back together. So let me just get my clips real quick. I have my 3 clips that I have. You could have more. My car should ran out of a couple of the clips, so I haven't had a chance to buy more. Let's put them back in. There we go. All right, I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick, get everything cleaned up in the engine bay. I'm gonna connect the battery back together. I'm going to prime the water pump and everything, and then I'll start up the car, and I'll give an honest opinion of how the car sounds, the throttle body, and see if there's any difference. I'll be right back, and I'll show how it sounds. After driving the car for a couple of days now, my final thoughts on the throttle body spacer are it does, in fact, bring a lot of the response back into the pedal for when you accelerate, and it does bring a nice whine to the actual car and the engine. Almost makes it sound like it's supercharged. I do feel like it did add a little bit more the low end torque, so it's definitely a worthwhile upgrade. I think it makes the car sound a lot better, and it was a pretty simple mod to do, so I'd recommend anyone who is thinking about doing it to definitely go ahead and do it. It's quite simple to do, and it does make the car sound nicer, and you get some of that throttle response back. So yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions on the install, make sure to leave it in the comments.